Well, Razorback fans, we know that Bobby Petrino is returning as the offensive coordinator for the Razorbacks. What is the offense going to look like next season in year two in the Petrino experience? We'll talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast, THV11 edition.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Neighbors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Very special edition here of today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Of course, it's a THV11 Tuesday, as we like to call it. And we have Nick Luttrell of THV11 down there in Little Rock joining us now. And as always, Nick, it's good to catch up with you, man. How you doing?
Yeah, you as well, John. I'm doing pretty good. We're in the regular season with football now, looking ahead to the bowl game, which isn't the most exciting thing to be thinking about a Birmingham Bowl or a Liberty. But for me, Texas Bowl is somewhat interesting, but I kind of hope it's not the Birmingham. I don't know why people hate the Birmingham Bowl, because I guess it's Birmingham, Alabama, and people don't like Birmingham. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just not exactly a destination spot. It's not like someplace you go on vacation. And also, usually when I think of Birmingham, I think of SEC Media Days or basketball, or think of Hoover, which I hate, going down there for the baseball SEC tournament. So just not a lot of good vibes. But Arkansas at least will be going to a bowl game of some sorts, and we'll find out later this weekend which exactly Arkansas will be going to as far as the bowl game goes. But mentioning the Bobby Petrino thing, that came out today, and it was reported today by Brett McMurphy, among others, that Bobby Petrino will be returning, or at least removed his name from the Charlotte job. Maybe that's the way we should put it. Looks like he's going to be returning for another season at Arkansas. But when hearing that news and knowing what the offense setup-wise could be next season, just what do you think that it's going to mean and have an impact on this team, positively, negatively, or just whatever? It's just going to be the same thing.
I think it's definitely positive. I don't know there's probably other offense coordinators you could get to run the offense, but I think consistency is good, especially in a Bobby Petrino offense. I don't know exact plays or anything. I've just heard that it's a pro style offense and it's very complicated offense to learn. So when you have a team this year like the Razorbacks that showed some signs of some good offense this year, but didn't have an amazing offensive season, mainly due to turnovers, I think you have to be positive thinking about another year, because that should be another year of growth and being better than you were a season ago, because that's what you want to see year to year. So I definitely think it's positive. It also goes hand in hand with Taylen Green returning, and I don't think there's been an official announcement on that. He kind of strikes me as the type of player that would just kind of quietly be back next season and not even announce it. Even it's just kind of weird these days that people don't announce it, which is a weird thing to say. But another year under Petrino is a good thing. Another year under Taylen Green, I think, is a good thing too, to see improvement there. That might be a little bit of a hot take right now. I know there's some slander on Green, but I'm for Taylen Green and for Bob Petrino for another year for that.
So a lot of it's going to, of course, depend on the weapons that Taylen Green has around him. But the transfer portal is going to be key. It's going to be crucial. It seems like as of right now, they're going to need more running backs. They're going to need more wide receivers, maybe even more offensive linemen. They're going to have some needs. But when you look at the offense in general, what needs to be the number one target, the number one priority for this offense, and hammering in the transfer portal to make sure they get some high quality guys?
Yeah, I mean, you said it's got to be the offensive line. It's just so weird every time we talk about the offensive line, the Sam Pittman coach team, that's where the weakness is. And don't get me wrong, they're worlds better than they were last season, but still not good enough to be what we expected out of a Sam Pittman offensive line when he first was hired as the head coach 5 years ago. We were like, oh, we're going to have the best offensive line in the country every year. We might not have the skill players, but we're going to have the offensive line. And that just hasn't been the case. And so it's really interesting to me that's been a problem with Pittman, because he's that guy who's supposed to be able to recruit those players, and had obviously previously the offensive line coach and had a really good offensive line when Bielema was the head coach and everything. So that's just been interesting to me that hasn't been a really good. They haven't had amazing offensive line. So I think you got to go out and you got to get some good alignment, especially if you have some of your skill players coming back. I think you're okay with where Arkansas is at as far as some of the skill players. But again, I don't know how many of them will come back. Let's say Taylen does come back, and there's one, but then some of the receivers, who knows? Andrew Armstrong, no, but I say Satania maybe. So there's so many questions that will be answered probably in the next month, because guys won't wait long to say, hey, I want to enter the transfer portal. They want to do it now so they can find their team and move on to wherever they want to go to next. So
how would you grade the job that Bobby Petrino and the offense did this year? Because obviously going into the season, they were coming off one of their worst offensive performances that a team's had. They had a whole new quarterback, new running back, a lot of new offensive linemen, pretty tough schedule. So I think that it definitely was improved, but just how would you grade out the job that the offense and Bobby Petrino did in year one?
I would say it's a B, maybe a B minus. It's kind of funny because you look at the stats and everything was really good except for the turnovers. If you take out the turnovers, I might give it like an A minus or a B plus, because obviously the whole season changes if they don't turn over the ball the way they did this season. But I think it was still a good offensive season for this team that had a lot of, like I said, a lot of good skilled players, and was somewhat productive throughout the year. We didn't see the struggles that there were with the offense last year. So I definitely think it was improved. And that's not saying much, because it was Dan Enos last year, and then whoever replaced him as interim offensive coordinator. And I've heard people say that was the thing that killed Pittman the most, and that might have cost him his job. Obviously not this year. It doesn't seem like. Maybe next year is that Enos hire. So it doesn't say much to say that they improved from last year, but I do think there is. I'm kind of an optimist in thinking about what this offense did this year. And again, I'm pro Taylen Green. I know there's kind of two sides of it here, but I'm pro Taylen Green, and I like what the offense did. And again, another year with Taylen Green with Bobby Petrino, I think there's hope in that.
We'll continue on our discussion, talk a little bit more football, and look at Sam Pittman and what he needs to do to win the fans back. And we'll get to that here in just a second. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, all you Razorback fans, I'm here to tell you about the Game Time app. We know that all of you are looking to go to different games, to different concerts, to different comedy shows, whatever it may be, maybe some Christmas shows that are out there that you're really looking forward to. Well, the thing is, you're going to need these things called tickets. And you need to get these tickets in the best way. You want to have them cheap. You want to have them affordable. And you want to have them, of course, being in a great spot. So there's no better place to do it than with the Game Time app. You can get the all-in pricing. So that way there's not a bunch of fees that you have to go through all these steps, and then suddenly you're paying double for what you originally thought you were. You can toggle that feature and you can see all the fees up front. You also get great seat views where you get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. So you make sure that you are getting the best seat possible. And they also have a lowest price guarantee where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find somebody cheaper, which odds are you won't. But there is that guarantee to go along with it. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. We're also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play commentary, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. It's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. Continuing our conversation with Nick Luttrell of THV11 here on a THV11 Tuesday on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So, Nick, Sam Pittman went under the knife today, as it was reported, had some hip surgery. And a lot of people may have some misconceptions about that. It's not something that's going to put him out of commission for a long time. It's something that he can do outpatient and should be good to go. But there's just a lot of toxicity, I guess is the best way to put it, going on right now in the fan base. A lot of fans are not having a lot of faith in Sam Pittman right now. Do not believe he can get it done. Wants to see something different. Well, he's the coach next year. That's been made clear. So, what are some things? Obviously, winning games is the easiest way, and duh. But what are some things that maybe Sam Pittman can do this offseason, whether it's here in December or in spring practice, whatever it is, to try to win some of these fans back? He's not going to win them all back because wins matter the most, but what are some things he can do to just help some fans start believing that he is the guy for the job moving forward?
I think it's three things. Some of it we've already mentioned. I think the first one, obviously, you want to get really good, exciting players in the portal. So having a skill player that he gets in the portal that maybe is kind of unexpected would be awesome. Or having a couple people flip commitments and go to Arkansas as far as incoming freshmen or something like that would be really cool. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think you're going to get a guy that's like, hey, I was going to go to Ole Miss. Now I'm going to go to Arkansas. I don't think that's going to happen. But if that did happen, that would certainly get fans a little bit more excited. Like, oh, this guy wanted to go to Ole Miss. Now he's going to Arkansas. So something like that would be like, oh, okay, that can get me a little bit more excited for the hope, I guess, if there is any, for this football program. And then also specifically offensive line, just getting guys that will be consistent, great offensive line players that can really improve this offense. And I think the last part is, in my opinion, keeping the coordinators. I think by Petrino, it sounds like he's coming back, and that's great. And then keeping Travis Williams as well. I haven't seen any rumors about him being on a short list for head coaches like it was with Bobby the past few days, but it's kind of weird. I mean, if you take out the Ole Miss game, Travis Williams is one of the best coordinators in the country. But with that game, you're like, well, is he really one of the best coordinators in the country? That hopefully that's just an outlier and what's a really good future and what I think is a good coordinator in Travis Williams. Again, I'm a big consistency guy, so I think having those coordinators back, and I know you have a much different team next year because that's just how college football is. But it sounds weird to say you like both of the coordinators and you want to keep them after a 6-6 season, because I don't think the coordinators are really the problem, in my opinion. It's kind of funny because I think maybe the head coach is possibly the problem, but it doesn't sound like we're changing that. And so if you're going to keep the head coach, I think you keep the coordinators. But then it's like, yeah, how do you get that excitement? I think it's through the portal and through getting guys that maybe you didn't expect to get through the portal.
Well, I think it's also tough because next year's schedule is pretty difficult, much more difficult. I mean, you flip your entire SEC deal where you're going to Ole Miss, to LSU, to Tennessee, to Texas. All four of those teams are going to be better than you next year, and you're playing them on the road. And then you get A&M back in Fayetteville, which is nice, no longer in Arlington, but they're going to be pretty good. And you got Missouri, Auburn, Mississippi State. Those are just your SEC games. You got Notre Dame coming to town. You got Arkansas State and Little Rock. You got Memphis over in Memphis. So I feel like that's really what sets this almost up for failure, where you could theoretically have a better team next season, but have a worse record because of the schedule and because of the games you're having to play.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. A lot can change in the offseason, like with those other teams too. Like you never know, Arkansas might get an upset or two, but it's hard to believe right now that Arkansas will be better than a lot of those SEC teams for next season. And I know your kind of original question to me was what can you change in the offseason, but I think even early on in the season, maybe something that could get fans a little bit more excited is having a good start to the non-conference season that can give people a little bit of hope. Like it's possible, like Arkansas, I don't know. Maybe can they beat Memphis? Probably. They'll probably be favored by a little bit. They should beat Arkansas State. And so those aren't nobodies. I mean, if you beat those teams, like, okay, all right, this team might be decent. Let's say they knock off Notre Dame, then you get that little bit of that hype going. So I think if Arkansas can start the non-conference season out really well, then that kind of gives the fan base, okay, we're going to come out to some more of these home games like they did this past season. But as you mentioned, all the bigger games, it looks like, are going to be on the road this year. So if you don't have as big games at home, I don't know if fans are going to show up. I think a lot of the biggest reason fans showed up this season wasn't necessarily because this is a really good football team. it was because it's just really big games. Texas and Tennessee and Ole Miss and LSU. Those are big, fun games. I don't know if that's as much the case for the home games next year.
So before I let you get out of here, Nick, what's going on at THV11? I know the month of December is officially arrived, and the holiday season is always a busy time for everybody. But as far as what some of the plans are, not only this week but throughout the rest of the month, what's going on down there at THV11?
Yeah. So yeah, finishing up football season. The biggest thing we got on our radar for this weekend is high school football playoffs. We obviously cover high school football every weekend, but this weekend a lot of state championships. So there'll be a lot of great games there. A couple D1 players playing at War Memorial Stadium this weekend when Parkview plays in the Class 5A and Bryant plays in the Class 7A on Saturday night. So I'm really looking forward to covering that. High school football is so much fun because normally you don't really have like a dog in the fight. Like when we're covering Razorbacks, like we're kind of rooting for the Razorbacks because everything is just better when Arkansas wins. When it's high school football, it's like, oh, either team can win. We'd prefer our team, like the team in our region, like Bryant, to beat Bentonville in the Class 7A championship. But that's kind of fun. That's the beauty of covering high school football. You don't get as disappointed as you do covering the Razorbacks.
Yeah, there's a lot less heartache and frustrations, I feel like, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But hey, that's why we do it. That's why they pay us the big bucks, to really do with all the tops and all the bottoms, all the highs and all the lows. It's really tough. But either way, it's Nick Luttrell. You can catch him on THV11 each and every day right there in Central Arkansas. And you can also check them out at thv11.com for all their great digital content. But Nick, it's always great to catch up with you. Enjoy the week. Stay in there. It's going to be a busy one with high school football, but we appreciate it. And we'll be catching up with you here soon. All right, my man?
Yeah. All right, John. Thanks so much.